guys? What is happening? And welcome to another exciting episode of the AnimetalKast, the show where anime fans, music lovers, geeks, and all gather together to talk about the stuff that they love. And today I am joined by the one and the only LouTalksAnime. How are you doing today, my man?
Oh man, I'm doing good. It is a wonderful day. How are things on your side of the world?
Oh, it's very cold. Just got hit by a cold front. Kind of rainy. The rain's stopped for a little bit. Weather that is, you just want to stay under the covers, watch some anime, maybe eat some pizza or something. I don't know, something along those lines. It's that kind
See,
of weather.
see, the thing is, I don't get cold in my part of the world. I live in a subtropical environment. It's most people would call it pleasant. I'm not a fan of the humidity, so every day is basically stay inside and watch anime kind of weather for me. I need to move
Yeah,
elsewhere.
yeah. You live in Florida, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. It is very, very warm there. From what I gather. Before we begin, folks, I'd just like to encourage you guys to check out Lou's channel, which will be linked in the description box down below and at the end of this video. So, with that being said, let us begin. So, Lou, could you introduce yourself to the listeners out there and explain what it is that you do on your YouTube channel and perhaps maybe what you do outside of the platform?
Okay, I'd be happy to do so. So my name's Lou. I run a YouTube channel called LouTalksAnime, where I occasionally make anime-related content. As of late, I've taken more of an interest in meta commentary, so I look at what's going on in the community, and I will make content surrounding that, and in a way, kind of poke fun at it, but also uh, like really pick it apart. And I think a way that other people don't try to do, because I think what I value most about the community is more the interactions that I have with the other people in the community over what we are actually discussing.
Hmm.
Aside from that, I stream on Twitch. My Twitch channel is twitch.tv/LouPlaysGames. And I also am on a podcast called Manga Pod. It's a weekly podcast, which is basically a book club that I do with Happily Aaron and Dodger. And we
Hmm.
typically bring a guest on and we'll read about 4 volumes worth of manga and just
Hmm.
have a friendly little discussion. And yeah, that's the majority of what I do online
Hmm.
stuff. Outside of that, I am a special education teacher, and that's something that I've been doing for the past few months, and I enjoy it a lot. Which is more than probably one of the bigger reasons for why I haven't been making as much content for my channel, and I've been dedicating more time to streaming because it's easier to just drop into a game as opposed to script a video, edit, etc., etc.
Yes. I can definitely see that being easier. But yeah, no, that sounds rather interesting actually. And I'm just curious to know what channels or YouTubers actually inspired you to start your own channel.
Well, the very first YouTuber I met and became friends with on the platform was a YouTuber who is a part of Mangapod, Yokorama Game Talk. He
Okay.
is a member that isn't very active. In the past 3 years, I've done maybe 5 or 6 shows with him,
Mm.
but he's still a really good friend and one of the people that kind of like inspired me to go ahead and get you know get my channel running. And stylistically, I took a lot of influence from him in the very beginning. And
Ah.
then outside of Yokorama, it was other people like basically everyone in Pataku. So like Garnt and Holden and Gene. So and
Ah.
obviously Tristan. So it was like
Oh, okay.
they were basically the standard, and it was something that I worked to. And
Hmm.
I'm happy to call them all friends. I don't think I've reached quite their level of content quality, but I think that's more to say that I rush my content and I'm not as meticulous with it as they are. Also, they're way better at editing than I am, and that's fine.
I feel you, man. There are a lot of not just anime YouTubers, but YouTubers of other styles and genres that I really look up to, and I still remember the early days of my channel where I was doing more rant style videos, which were very cringy, still all that. But yeah, no. But as it's evolved and developed, like there are plenty of people I looked up to, and even I feel like even these last few videos that I've uploaded, I've just looked at them and I'm like, yeah, I don't think I'm as detailed, as meticulous, and then all my friends are like, "Oh, don't worry, you're doing fine, you're doing great video," and I'm still like, the typical artist self-doubt where you're like, "Oh, you're just saying that."
I mean, everyone hates their own content. I don't
Yeah.
think I can name a single person who's consistently happy with their work. The way you
Mm.
overcome that, from what I gather, is just being prolific. Release as much content as you can, as often as you can, and that way
Mm.
you can kind of ride that endorphin rush of, channel videos posted, like, and then you get all that traffic onto your channel, like the likes and the comments and seeing the view counter go up, and that kind of offsets the what's it called, the anxiety or
Mm.
frustration that you may have with the end product. And maybe that'll cause a little bit more self-doubt, but having more people give you that reassurance kind of will mitigate that, I would think.
Yes, yes. No, no, that's something very similar to what my arts teacher used to tell me a lot as well. So yeah, no, that's some very good advice there. Now you say you're also the co-host of Manga Pod, and as you say, it's kind of like a manga book club. Um, could you maybe perhaps tell us just a little bit more about how you got involved in that project?
Okay, I'd be happy to do so. Um, so there was a period of time where Manga Pod had four hosts. Those hosts
Mm.
were Aaron, Dodger, uh, Daza from
Mm.
Fighting for Nippon, and
Mm.
Yokorama Game Talk. And I want to say it was 2015 or 14. It was one of those.
Mm.
Um, Daza had kind of a falling out with
Mm.
the other host. Nothing too bad because there have been interactions since then, but the decision has been made that like he's not coming back.
Mm.
And it was Aaron and Dodger and guests that they would bring on, and there was things going on in Yokorama's life that made it a little bit difficult for him to come on, which is still part of the reason why he hasn't been as regular. He
Yeah.
was planning on coming on last week, but that's kind of beside the point.
Yeah.
Uh, so Aaron and Dodger realized that they needed another host. At that point in time, my channel was at about 400 or 500 subs, so I was still pretty small, and I
Mm.
was a moderator for their channel. I'd already become friends with Aaron and Yoku through Twitter, so
Okay.
they kind of reached out to me at one point and said, "Hey, you're in the chat. You help us out all the time as a mod. You know, you seem to know your stuff. So why don't you come in and help us out as a host?" And I
Mm.
kind of like jumped at the opportunity because, well, one, like, working with Aaron and Dodger always seemed like it would be a lot of fun, and it has been. Like, it's always a good time when I'm in a call with them. But
Mm.
there's the selfish component of, all right, yeah, this is gonna really help me grow my channel, and it did.
Yeah.
Like it did. My one regret is I didn't capitalize on it as much as I could have. I could
Mm.
have taken more of an initiative and made more content and put more of myself in my content and grown my channel faster and
Yes.
probably to a greater extent. And that didn't happen, but I'm happy with where things are now. Like, being more of just a podcaster rather than a content creator in my own right. Because I feel
Mm.
like it's more like this casual atmosphere that I have with everyone. It's reassuring.
Mm. Yeah, no, that actually sounds really chill, really cool because with regards to my channel in particular, like I actually was inspired to do podcasts because of my one friend who couldn't make it today, Michelle. She had me on a podcast over on her channel, and I enjoyed the experience so much that I was like, well, as much as I like making regular content, I like having these more casual, little conversations, just regular breaks in between making the videos because, as you say, scripting the stuff, editing, all that stuff, is it's very time consuming, and it can even get very stressful. So what I did is I was like, okay, well, what if I start my own one? And then that's when I brought on board Michelle, Claudio, and I've met a whole bunch of other cool people like Weeaboo Reacts, Become the Knights, and a whole bunch of other cool people. And yeah, it's been going great so far. So I'm with you there with the podcast then. Uh, and also with as far as the somewhat selfish side of it, yes, there will always be that side when you're a creator of any kind, an artist, musician, YouTube content creator, where there is that chance where you're like, ooh, it could promote my stuff. There will always be that part because we're only human. But I agree with you. Yeah, it's podcasts are a lot of fun to do. They really are, and I enjoy doing them. So yeah, I can see why you would have gone in that direction because the impression I'm getting so far as we're doing this interview is yes, you seem like a really cool, calm, relaxed guy who can talk about stuff and is very easy to approach. So that's what I gather from it.
Hey man, thank you for the kind words. It's always reassuring when people kind of like get you. So thanks.
You're very much welcome. And I'm also curious to find out what is the other project you mentioned. It's in your Twitter bio, and you mentioned it earlier. The Anime Association. Could you maybe explain a little bit more about that?
Okay, so Anime Association is a podcast that I tried getting off the ground right after Podtaku officially died. It was going to involve, or it involves. I don't want to say it's like 100% dead. It's just really difficult to coordinate things.
Yes.
It involves Baron J and Dakota Broski and a few other people that are really really cool people in the community. Like it was several of us involved in this project, and we were able to record a few episodes, but then schedules had trouble aligning, and there were instances where we had difficulty with editing, and we just kind of like shelved it. And again, I don't want to say that the channel is 100% dead or that as a podcast it's 100% dead. If I have considered just rebooting it and putting it on my channel instead, and then rebranding my channel around that, but that would involve focusing more on YouTube, which is not what I'm doing right now. Like I enjoy YouTube, I enjoy making things for YouTube, but I'm having fun right now streaming on Twitch. So it's a new endeavor that I've been on, and since Manga Pod does stream on both YouTube and Twitch, I feel like I don't know, it feels like comfortable for me to make this transition because I've been on both platforms simultaneously on someone else's channel for about 3 years now. So things are looking okay.
That's very interesting. And yeah, and also since you're very experienced in podcasting, and a lot of people seem to know you, at least when they come to watch your streams, at least like I haven't watched any of your streams per se, so I cannot like 100% say what's going on because I don't have a Twitch account. But I'm assuming that the reason people come to watch your streams a lot is because they've heard the stuff that you have had to say on podcasts prior, and so whatever you talk about on your streams, I assume is it's very interesting to them, and also they like watching you play whatever game it is you're playing, and yeah, and as long as you're enjoying what you're doing, then yeah, I'd say go for it. Whatever makes you feel comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, the challenge when you're transitioning from one platform to another is bringing your audience with you. And I think any of the other anime YouTubers that have made or that have started to make the effort and stream in addition
Mm.
to the content that they're making can attest to the fact that you're not going to pull the same numbers. You're
Yes.
never going to pull the same numbers because it's a different type of audience that you're catering to. Because YouTube is a
Yes.
platform that's built for video on demand as opposed to Twitch. No, people don't really watch the videos. People, if they don't catch the live stream, then they don't catch the live stream. So
Yes.
that's the difference between the two platforms. And for me,
Mm.
I've been like I'm still starting out on Twitch, so I haven't been able to pull the my entire audience from YouTube, but some of
Mm.
them have come over and it's worked out okay because like I said, I'm not trying to be any major internet personality. I'm just trying to have
Mm.
fun conversations on the internet. And if I have a platform to take advantage of to spread whatever message I'm trying to spread, then I'm happy. I'm happy to have it because
Mm.
ultimately that's like Twitter is a conversation that you have with yourself that occasionally people will listen in on. So that's how
Yes.
I feel like that's how I treat the internet. It's a conversation that I have with myself, and hopefully people will interact with it and enjoy what I have to say.
Mm. Yes. Yeah. Um. Just trying to think now. In come the short-term memory from. But yeah, no, but you're right there. It is a completely different audience. Like there are even some people, my circle of friends that I've made on YouTube, and even prior to doing YouTube, they just never really got the point of streams. I'll admit I'm not one for streams myself, but if it's like an interesting stream, like maybe someone's playing a game, that has been recommended to them that they haven't played before, and it's nice to see, how they do in it, and maybe while doing so, talk about, some interesting stuff, or just have a chill, have a good time. Then I'll watch. But for the most part, I tend to be more of a music guy, so I'll rather just like jam a full, I don't know, prog metal concept album or something like that, or I don't
Mhm.
know. So that's what I tend to do because from a young age, for me, music has always been associated with art. If I listen to a piece of music, it always wants me to, get out my drawing stuff and uh, draw whatever it makes me feel, whether it's like anime stuff or just whatever the music's making me feel. So I've always been like that kind of person with sound and visual. So yeah, but I agree with you there. It is a very different style of audience. You aren't gonna always pull everyone over, but I'm glad to hear that you've got some people coming over to check what you have to offer out, even though you're just starting on that platform.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's see. Now, you don't have to answer this question if you don't want to, but
Okay.
according to the YouTube Wikipedia page, you once went by the name of SBTW, sitting by the window anime reviews. What made you decide to rebrand your channel to Lou Talks Anime, and what kind of anime reviews did you used to make before doing what you do now?
All right, so I went by that name because I literally sat by a window while I was recording. And the first time while I was piecing my channel together, I had this thought of, okay, I'm literally sitting by a window, which is what the protagonist of every anime ever does. That
Yes.
is the position. Um, so I figured I would take advantage of the trope and I would play up the trope and
Hmm.
um I could use that to like gain an advantage on metadata, but sitting by the window was too long, so I abbreviated it. And for a while, I thought, okay, this is clever, whatever. And then I realized I hate saying the entire name, and I hate the entire name being said because it's too wordy. It's inconvenient to say. It's inconvenient to type.
Mm.
So I just felt like I needed to rebrand. Also, like the type of content that I had been making wasn't content that I wanted to make anymore stylistically. It was very different. So I
Ah,
initially started off with like vlogger style reviews with content up in the corner,
yes.
because I just didn't want to deal with the content ID system. That was before I found all the workarounds that I know now. And
Yes.
um, eventually I just decided on the rebrand. So I did, and it felt good. Like my channel grew a lot after the change.
Mm.
But I made way less content after I rebranded. So
Mm.
it was kind of like, I don't know. At that point I'd just kind of lost motivation, and it was kind of a low point for my channel. I went like 4 or 5 months without making a video. Now I'm pushing
Mm.
like 3 or 4, but like I feel this is justified because I've been really busy with work, and
Yes.
the real world has to come first, unfortunately.
Yes, definitely. Um, but yeah, no, that's that's very interesting, especially the idea of the character trope. Yeah, no, geez, how to put it? Like, with regards to my channel, like I said earlier, I used to make very rant styled videos, and it would be not just about anime and metal. It would be like, about anything I found interesting or was, inverted commas, outraged by. So, like, movies, video games, comic books, all that stuff. Because I've grown up with a exposure to a lot of geek media. Um, because South Africa, while we do have access to these things and we do have certain places that sell these things, it's not as big as it is in a lot of other countries, especially the United States. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I do have exposure to this stuff, but I mean, it's because I didn't grow up in an area where, say, this community is bigger and more prominent than this one or something. I just got exposure to everything, so I just talk about whatever, rant about whatever, and it'd be very much in the style of guys like Ranter and Shades and Cover Killer Nation and all those guys. But then after a while, I was like looking back on these videos and I'm like, ooh, these are super cringy. So yeah, I think about I think after my reaction phase with the channel, because there was a period I was doing reaction videos mainly to Ruby. So I was kind of like, okay, so I don't want to make these kinds of videos anymore because I'm not really talking about the stuff I want to talk about. And it's just gets very tiring. So I thought to myself, like sometime last year, what am I going to do? So I decided to change my channel name. Like it was still AnimetalViking before, but it had, like when you're very young, you think it's cool to have like caps and numbers mixed in with everything.
Yep.
So it made it harder to find on the search and even for the algorithm to promote it. So I just rebranded it to a normal word, and then I just got rid of all the old rant videos and stuff, and left anything that has the more professional look that I was going for with the channel since then. So that's what happened with regards to my channel, and I can totally relate with you there with the whole uh, kind of low point phase. There was also a period of time where I just didn't upload for a while because I was like, I'm really not feeling it anymore. And also, I wish I actually did upload a bit more often back then, because then maybe my channel might have grown a bit more and I wouldn't be subject to YouTube's new content and partnership policy changes. But you can't change the past. I've just got to make do with what I've got now. So yeah.
Yep. No, that's totally fair. Like I even got dinged by that. Like I meet the subscriber threshold, but my videos are all relatively short. So the
Mm,
total watch time, like even though I have a few videos that are at like 10 or 15,000 views, like
mm,
that's still not enough total watch time to meet the 4,000 hour threshold to qualify for
Yes.
partnership. So I lost my partnership, and
Yeah.
that's totally fine. Um, I I've considered maybe doing some pod. That's part of the reason why I considered doing podcast on my channel, is
Mm.
because long form content in terms of ad revenue does really well on there, and it's
Mm.
would be easier to hit that. Like, let's say if I average 1,000 views on an hour long podcast,
Mm.
that already puts me 25% of the way there to get the minimum hour requirement, which
Mm.
I don't remember exactly how to look it up, but I do know that Brad from the Anime Collector, Open Chest Anime Podcast, um, I would give them a look. He has made videos going in at length explaining the changes to the partnership program and where to find where like that specific piece of information. So
Mm.
I would give that a look. I mean, you may meet part of the criteria for it already, and it would
Mm.
just be meeting whatever's left. And it from what I've read, it auto flags your account for review once you hit the minimum threshold.
Hmm. I think so because I remember before YouTube changed it. I remember there were plenty of occasions where I'd upload something and barely an hour later it would be demonetized, and then maybe after a while it would get remonetized again, even though I didn't get 1,000 views on the video within a certain amount of hours. It had just happened, and I know it wasn't a glitch that would happen because otherwise I wouldn't have earned any revenue from it. But I mean, I couldn't really tell, so I've just accepted it, and I'm just trying to push as much as I can because I've got like all I've got all these at the time of this recording I've got like three different metal themed videos, and then I've got like I think two or three or maybe four other anime themed ones because I try and balance out the anime and the metal side of my channel. So so yeah, just it's just how it is. Um, so now, let's see. What else have we got here? Oh yes. Now earlier you also mentioned that you're a teacher, and what kind of teacher did you say it was again? Um,
I focus, or my class deals with the American government.
yes,
I work as a special needs teacher.
yes,
That's not to say that I work uh, with in a containment unit with with the very low performing or low functioning
yes.
autistic children. I
Mm,
do work with some autistic children. A lot of the students that I work with have learning disabilities. Like
mm.
the most common one amongst all my students is ADD and ADHD.
Ah,
Um,
yes, yes, yes,
so it's a challenge working in that environment because it a lot of the kids are kids that want to learn. They
yes.
just have a lot of trouble with it. So I have to
Mm,
constantly come up with different ways to teach them. Because if
mm.
I was to present everything in the exact same way, they would have trouble differentiating information or have trouble being
Yes,
engaged with the information. And
yes.
this is my first year working as a special needs teacher. Before last year, I worked just with the general population of students, and
Mm.
it's very different in terms of how they process information, and this is definitely more challenging. But I feel like there's value in what I do, and I'm very happy to do it.
Oh yes, always. Teachers definitely have a value, and in here in my country, they are very undervalued. But I was going to ask you, so because you are a teacher, how do you manage to balance the life of a teacher with your online duties? Because I mean, both my parents are teachers, and when they were both still working, I remember when. Uh, uh, they and even myself, because my dad taught at the school I went to, the junior school side. We'd come home rather late sometimes, and they would still have jobs like setting tests and exams, marking projects, and all that kind of stuff. So how do you manage to balance it?
I mean, I on average go to work an hour early and I stay an hour late every day. I
Mm,
work through lunch. when my students are engaged with other materials, I take advantage of that time. So
Mm.
like let's say I have my students watching a documentary explaining civil rights. What I'll
Okay.
do is I'll take advantage of that time and I'll work through that time, including grading and lesson planning. I take advantage of every free moment available to me because I know that once I come home, I'm not going to be able to focus on that, and I don't want
Mm.
to have to focus on that. So
Yeah.
I've been fortunate because like I know the material very well, and I
Mm.
have a like the state provides us a pacing guide, which we're
Yes.
expected to adhere to, and that basically outlines the content, so I don't have to deal with connecting what topics I'm going to be working with because a lot of that is already provided for me, and I'm
Ah.
evaluated based on meeting that content, so I really can't deviate too much for it. The curriculums here in the U.S. have gotten pretty strange. Like teachers aren't really given a lot of freedom to decide what we teach,
Mm.
but that does,
Yeah.
on the other side of it, that does streamline the process of lesson planning, so it's not as bad as it could be. I don't know.
Yes.
I don't have a lot of trouble lesson planning, so
Mm.
I don't know. Maybe
No,
I'm not creative
that's
enough.
no. um, but yeah, no. Honestly, I actually envy that side of you of taking the opportunity of things because I'm such a huge procrastinator most of the time, and also with regards to getting work to come home with. Like I still remember when I was in school, I was that kid who was like, I've got to have a nap first before I do my homework. And even
Yep.
then, like when I'd get up, I'd be like, oh, okay, I'm going to eat first before I do my homework. And it's like, oh, I'm going to shower first before I do my homework. And then,
Hmm.
like, comes 10 o'clock, I was like, shit, I still got a history essay to do or something like that, you know? So, that was me, still kind of is me a little bit. But, yeah, no, it does take, a lot of you know as you say how would you put it planning and creativity in a way to actually be a teacher and yeah it's no and teachers are very important it's just sadly that nowadays not a lot of people tend to think that and like I said earlier, in my country, they're so undervalued. It's probably one of the most underpaid professions yeah, you can get here. Like it's really bad.
Hmm.
Yeah. But now I want to know. Now I'm a South African, so I don't know too much about the United States aside from what we get in news and movies and American YouTubers and stuff like that. So, what's life like in Florida or anywhere else you've been in the United States? Like, would you say it's
Um,
good?
yeah, I mean, I don't really mind where I live. Like, I don't mind living in the U.S.
Mm,
There are other places in the world I would consider venturing
mm,
out to, but in regards to living in Florida, um, well, the part of Florida that I live right now, I live in Miami. Uh,
mm,
it's a very rude place to live. If you were to actually look up which are the nicest places to visit, this city usually gets a lot of press as being really as a tourist destination, but it
mm.
also like there's always a caveat of but everyone is extremely rude and stuck up, and that's pretty true. I have also lived in northern Florida, up in Jacksonville by the Florida Georgia border, and
Okay.
it's like night and day. And having visited other parts of the country like New Jersey, New York, on the West
Yeah.
Coast, Los Angeles, like people act differently elsewhere, and I
Mm.
like those interactions have made me want to leave the state. So at some point, I do think I'm gonna leave.
Yeah.
I don't think I would ever leave the U.S.
Mm.
I'm really comfortable here with the way of life here. Though I do acknowledge that um, there probably would be better opportunities, or at least I would feel more comfortable in countries like, let's say, Canada, for example, which
Ah.
may reflect my political ideologies a little bit more closely than what I have here
Mm.
in the U.S.
Mm. I see. I see. No, that's very interesting. Cause yeah, no, it's South Africa. It can be a nice place. The most of the people here are very helpful. You know, very friendly, especially with regards to tourists and stuff. But also, as you say, and it's true for anywhere, I guess. You know, people act differently on different sides. So, where I live, the province of Gauteng, um, the people here, especially in Joburg, are very different to your people living down in Cape Town or down in Durban, one of those places. But yeah, no, South Africa, there are nice people here. It's just this country is probably one of the most corrupt in the entire world. So I'd probably and consider getting out of here, especially the political situation is getting like super tense here. So I'd probably, if I ever had the opportunity, I'd probably either go to the States or Europe, maybe even Australia. But if it had to be first choice, probably be the United States. But I mean, that's just me. So yeah. But otherwise, South Africa is, for the most part, a really nice place. A lot of friendly people here. It's very unique as well. It's got just there are a lot of things. Claudio once asked me, like the first time we actually met in Skype together, he was like, "Dude, why do you have a country within a country?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know, I can't explain that one." So
Yeah, I don't. I honestly, like, my degree is in political science, and
mm,
like, I've studied the politics of different parts of the world, and I'll tell you, I haven't looked at South African politics at all. So that's one thing that I like. Honestly, you could lecture me on that, and it'd be really interesting. But we could save that for some other time. I would imagine that,
definitely,
like your viewers
definitely.
aren't coming here for like South African politics, but or
Mm.
maybe they are. I don't know. Who am I to judge?
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, no. We can definitely do a podcast or maybe even a video on something like that sometime. But yeah, no. But otherwise, like as I said before, it's also a very beautiful country. It's nice wildlife, some pretty cool holiday places and stuff. All that sort of thing. So it is a nice place. It's just if there's one thing aside from some of the politics I'd change, it would probably be we need more anime fans, we need more heavy metal fans, we need more comic book fans. Because I mean, gaming is a big thing here, but I mean, most people play video games here. It's probably like COD or FIFA, and that's like the extent of their knowledge.
Yep. I
So,
mean, that's basically everywhere. And nowadays,
mm.
Fortnite, like, everybody's going crazy over Fortnite. So
My brother's actually playing that, so so yeah, I totally get that. So yeah, no, that's really cool to hear that. Now I did get a few, if you want to call it, very short, quick ones that I want to ask you before we get on to the next set of questions. So somebody asked, what was the first anime that you ever watched?
Captain Tsubasa. It's a
Hmm.
soccer anime that aired in the 80s. I was like 4 years old, so it
Hmm.
was quite a while ago.
Wow.
Like 4 or 5
I'm.
years old. The anime, I think, originally came out in like 1981 or 82,
Oh
and
shit.
I'd watched it while visiting family in Colombia. So yeah, I was like
Ah.
5. So that was like probably 90 or 91.
Okay, that's when they were just starting to bring anime over, so that's why you'd got to get it a little bit later. So
Yes, sir.
yeah. Let's see. Another person asked, how would you describe your journey as an anime enthusiast in a nutshell?
I started off watching everything. Now I only watch things that I'm really interested in watching.
That sounds just like me as well. um, Ken, this person asks, what would you say is your favorite anime series or franchise of all time?
Welcome to the NHK. It is melancholic, and I have at various points in my life connected with the main character, and it is a very funny and depressing series. And my favorite manga is Oyasumi Pun Pun, and this show is very. It reminds me a lot of that manga, so it is a very unsettling experience that I
Hmm.
highly recommend. But
So
please be in a good state of mind when you watch the show.
sure, kind of like you must kind of be in a very depressive mindset to watch Technolize, only to be like, oh, life maybe isn't that bad after all.
Yeah, basically.
So yeah, well, you kind of answered the one question someone had in answering that one, which was what is your favorite manga? But another person asked, what was the first manga series that you ever read?
Uh, God. I have two different answers for that question. The very first time I picked up a manga and flipped through it is would be just a random volume of Bleach. I was walking through my college bookstore, and at that point, I was like maybe 18 or 19, and I was just really starting to get into anime. I just finished watching, I think it was Elfen Lied,
Oh
and
yes.
like I was walking through the bookstore, and I noticed Bleach, and I
Hmm.
was like, oh yeah, I've heard of this. I've seen some of this. So I was surprised. I didn't think that they'd carry a manga in the college bookstore. So I sat down, and I read part of it, and yeah, I didn't buy it, and I never read more Bleach. But until we did an episode of Manga Pod on it, like a couple months ago, so like a decade later. But the first manga I finished was actually a doujinshi called Onani Master Kurosawa, which roughly translates to Masturbation Master Kurosawa. It's pretty great. It was recommended to Mangapod by Holden, and I highly recommend it. It's a little not safe for work, but it's pretty good.
So you probably read that listening to Devon Townsend's song, the Mighty Masturbator.
I mean, I should reread it while doing that. That sounds like a pretty good idea.
If anyone listening to this has done that before, let us know in the comments down below. Let's see. Oh yes, and finally, somebody asked, what anime have you enjoyed so far this year, and what shows are you looking forward to?
I haven't really been much like I've started a bunch of 2018 shows. I
Mm,
haven't continued them.
mm,
So I'm in this weird place where I really don't have an answer for that apart from what I had been watching or have decided to watch in place of things that have been airing. So
mm,
for example, I started watching Kara no Kyokai for the
mm,
first time, and that's pretty solid. I
mm,
watched more Land of the Lustrous, and I've watched all of Knights of Sidonia, and like I've just reached this point where I don't want to have to wait for a show to release.
mm.
I'm kind of okay with the concept of binge watching, and
Yes.
I would like to do so with stuff that I own more than anything.
Mm,
Like the stuff that I mentioned, none of that I own, but I have a lot of shows on my shelf because I'm a collector. I buy a lot of the Blu-ray releases, and I have several that are for shows that I know are highly respected and recommended that I've never seen. So that's kind of where I see my anime watching going over the next year or so, is focusing more on shows that I know have a reputation for being good, as opposed to speculating that a show might be good, investing 6 weeks of my time and then being disappointed and dropping it.
Yes. No, I'm kind of at a similar point as well because especially since on my channel I talk about two completely different fields of entertainment. It's kind of hard to keep up with both. Also, I am a binge watcher myself, binge watchers are for the most part very much a minority in the current anime community.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, I prefer to binge watch my shows. That's why. Even though I made that video about the Ancient Magus Bride a month or so back, I only watched those first three episodes, and then I'm just like, yeah, it's almost over now, and I can finally binge watch that show. So what I tend to do is I watch a lot of, as you say, shows that have a reputation for being good. A lot of older shows. Like there was a period of time in my anime viewing history where I didn't like older animation or just older anime in general, and I was like, I'm not gonna watch this older stuff. I'm gonna only watch the new stuff. But then my friend Claudio, he was like, dude, you gotta watch Cowboy Bebop. How have you not
Mm-hmm.
watched that yet? You gotta watch Serial Experiments Lane. You gotta
Mm-hmm.
watch Eureka 7, or all these classics. So then, I think it was back in 2016. Yeah, 2016. I started picking up anime again because I had like a year-long hiatus from it and kind of was back into superhero stuff. So then I got back into anime with Cowboy Bebop, and I was like, well, how have I never watched this show before? Then I went complete anime again, and just yeah, it's that's how it's been since. So I've just been like recently finished Mushishi, the first season and all
Mm-hmm.
that. So I'm just as you say, I'm checking out a lot of shows that have a reputation for being good. Like there have been the odd ones where I'm like, okay, this isn't my for me because I thought it was going to go one way and it went a totally different way. But I'm happy to say it's been very few of them because I kind of know more or less what kinds of shows and themes, etc., actually interest me. So yeah, it's I could definitely relate to you on that side of things.
Yeah.
Okay, so we get more to the rest of the questions that I prepared. Okay, so you mentioned at one point during one of our many Twitter conversations that you are somewhat of a heavy metal enthusiast. Uh, would it be possible to tell us about some of your favorite bands, artists, albums, or maybe enlighten us as to what other genres of music that you enjoy?
Um, my understanding and appreciation of metal is chaotic in that I listen to metal when it's like I have to be in a certain mood for it, and
Mm,
it's always like I kind of just fall into listening to it, so I never actively seek it out. I'm not like most metalheads that'll um, focus on the music and
mm,
explore like I know if you go on 4chan for example on their music board, they'll have whole diagrams dedicated to metal and how to navigate within metal. And I'm not that far into it. I've picked up on bands that are like kind of proggy but also have like metal undertones, like Galacticon, which is
mm.
I don't know if you're familiar with them. It's Brendan Small, the guy that did Metalocalypse.
Yes,
All right,
yes, I'm
well
very familiar with him.
he has a band which has now released a second album called Galacticon, which their first album was a concept album about space, like aliens getting a massive divorce, and it's this epic uh, journey
Mm,
through space and time, and it's pretty crazy.
mm.
Um, Piggy, continuing with Brendan Small, like Death Clock.
Oh
I
yes.
like. I mean, it's classic at this point, you know. and
Yes.
it's like the show is dead, and Adult Swim has no intention of renewing that show. So that's pretty gone.
Unfortunately.
But the music is still good. Like
Definitely, and it's comedy gold.
yes, sir. And maybe some older metal, like Maiden, is always
Ah,
like it's
yes.
always that's what I grew up around. Like I have a cousin who's like really really into metal, and he's just I used to hear the Trooper playing at all hours of the day, and like that song it just stuck with me, man. So when I think metal, like that's the very first thing that comes to mind.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, no, the old guard, the guys who started it all are always great. I mean, I love me some Black Sabbath, some
Hmm.
Dio, Maiden, Priest, you know, all those guys. Like when it comes to thrash metal, I'm kind of picky about it because there are a lot of vocal styles in the genre that I'm not a huge fan of.
Hmm.
But I am a fan of Metallica, Megadeth. I like some of Slayer's stuff, but a lot of their stuff sounds the same, and and Tom Araya's voice hasn't exactly aged very well over the years. So no offense to Slayer fans, although I'll probably be murdered for that in the comments because you know what Slayer fans are like.
Yep.
Anthrax, I've never been a fan of. Again, the vocals. It's not so much the instrumentals. It's just I never was a fan of their vocals. Modern thrash, there isn't many of them that I'd consider good, except for maybe Havoc. Havoc are pretty dope.
I mean, is modern thrash really a thing? Because that for me is always like kind of stuck as something that was more contained to a time period than anything. Like I feel like
modern,
there was like I feel like it had its one boom period. Was it in like the late '80s, early '90s?
yeah,
And
yeah. Modern thrash, it is a thing. It's just the only thing that really changes about it, with the exception of what I was going to say about Havoc, is Havoc add some what you would call blasphemous inverted commas instrumental techniques like bass guitar slapping into the songs, which is like a sin for most people because the it was very prominent in new metal, and especially with bands like Rage Against the Machine, and a lot of old school metalheads can't stand the bass slapping stuff.
mhm.
But yeah, no, modern thrash. The only thing aside from that aspect of it in instrumentals is maybe the production, because a lot of old school thrash bands still like to use that very old school, the roomy sounding drums and the very loud, obnoxious sound.
Yeah,
Whereas,
that it doesn't sound as polished or clean.
yes, yes, so it sounds very raw. And
Yeah.
the modern thrash bands, they use the more modern sounding polished production. So if you listen to a band like Havoc, they've got those modern sounding drums that you'd hear in metalcore bands like
Hold on. Sorry about that. I had an alarm just go off. I forgot to turn it off.
that's fun. Yeah, so yeah, they're drumming well, not the drumming, but the drums will sound like they were produced like something that you'd find on a Kill Switch Engage or As I Lay Dying or one of those early metalcore band records or something like that.
That
So
sounds like wrong to me. I'm sorry. I'll probably
yeah,
catch some hate for that. Maybe there's some Havoc fans in the comments that will not appreciate me saying that, but this is just I don't know. It doesn't sound like it gels with what the genre or with what I know of the genre.
yeah. No, it's understandable, but I mean, I enjoy them, but as you said, Thrash seems to have had more of its heyday, and there's nothing really much else you can do with it other than maybe, I don't know, do blackened thrash metal, which is a thing where they make it where it's essentially black metal, um with more thrash, riffs and stuff. So
Hmm.
yeah, so that's, I guess, the farthest you can take it. Or maybe you could do it with an orchestra like Metallica did, but that's been done. So,
Yeah.
so yeah. Let's see. Yeah, no. I grew up more with modern metal, so new metal. Linkin Park was like my first band. onto that. Then I had the metalcore, and then now it's the deathcore and the slamming brutal death metal. But I also was into. I remember in high school, I was very much into melodic death metal, mainly a lot
Hmm.
of Swedish bands. So like Scar Symmetry and Soilwork, In Flames before they went pop almost, and and all that stuff. So yeah, that was my teenage years, and now I listen to pretty much any style of metal.
How about
I'm
comedy metal, like
I
Psycho Stick?
I haven't heard of Psycho Stick actually. I've heard of I don't know if you know of the parody band of Cannibal Corpse known as Cannabis Corpse, but they're pretty funny.
Hmm.
Let's see. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, but right now, I think at the moment, like at this very moment in time, I'm very much into the more epic, symphonic, and even the proggy styles, and a lot of the gent stuff. So bands like Periphery, Meshuggah, Sabaton, Orden Ogan. Yeah, and obviously I'm listening to a lot more of the old guard as well. So Motorhead, Priest, all that stuff. Especially since Priest released an album a few days ago. So hell yeah,
Oh, they have? I didn't know
yeah,
that. I need to
yeah
go
they
give it a look.
yeah they did. Unfortunately, the one I think their lead guitarist, his Parkinson's has now gotten really bad, so he won't be like too involved, especially on tours. But yeah, that's what's going down with them. Otherwise, things are pretty much the same for them. And Rob Halford apparently wants to do a black metal album with what's his name, Nurgle of Behemoth. So
Hmm.
I can't imagine what that will sound like.
I guess we'll
But
see.
yeah, we will. And oh yeah, the other side of the question, like what other genres do you enjoy?
I listen to a lot of fairly obscure and underground hip hop. So
Hmm.
like stuff like um, less obscure. So stuff like Atmosphere and Apathy
Hmm.
and Cage and all these people that really took off in the early 2000s. Uh,
Hmm.
to more obscure people like Mac Lethal, for example,
Hmm.
um, who has still he makes music, but he's more of a YouTuber now. So
Ah.
it's weird seeing someone that I would download rap battles of them in 2005, and then I start listening to their music in like 2010, and here in 2018, like I'm seeing him do video challenge videos where he raps in like 20 different styles. Um, and
Hmm.
has like 1 million subscribers. It's a weird transition, having followed his career.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's just kind of all over the place, musically. It's just
Ah.
I don't know. It's been weird. Like the thing is, I've never really focused on mainstream music, so
Yes.
I'm constantly seeking out music, but I don't want to, like, not to sound like a hipster, but I don't want to listen to what other people are listening to.
Yeah.
So I'll look for a musician that has like maybe 20,000 plays, and I'll give them a listen. And if I like them, I'll follow that musician as long as I can. And a lot of the music that I listen to are people that have come up through like the rap battle scene.
Yeah.
Because some of them, not very many, but some of them make some pretty quality music. So people like Immaculate,
Hmm.
if anyone happens to know him, or Iron Solomon.
Hmm. No, that's very interesting. Yeah, no. I listen to an artist regardless of their fame and popularity. I think that's probably because like in my early days of using the internet, I just get tired of coming across metal elitists who are like, huh, I listen to this black metal band that only records their shit on old cassette tapes, and they only sell like 10 at a time, and if they sell more than 10, they're a sellout,
See,
so
that's I don't know. I just want to give like the people that don't have an audience a chance. That
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's a combination of like I don't want to to listen to what's mainstream, because I feel like if I wanted to seek it out, there's not much effort involved with that. Versus, like maybe there's an artist that isn't recognized now that has something special to offer that no one is listening to. So why shouldn't I give them a shot?
Yeah, and then maybe 200 years down the line, they're probably like Mozart, like everyone listens to them. You never know.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, it's a shot that you take. It's a gamble,
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. Yeah, no, I'm as you probably gathered from what I was saying earlier, like metal is my main focus. I'm always looking for very obscure bands, especially like genres like cyber metal, which is like very very underground, doesn't really have a lot of traction and whatnot. Because I mean, it's trying to compete with its own founding father bands and genres like I mean the founding fathers of the entire genre are Fear Factory, Meshuggah, and Strapping Young Lad. But yeah, no, that's they've really they've really perfected the sound. The new generation of bands, they've really perfected it, and as you say, give them a chance. And yeah, I'm surprised not many people in the metal scene actually listen to it and stuff. But as you say, I've followed for as long as I can while they're still producing some really good quality stuff. So yeah. Also, I have to wonder now. What sort of music were you raised on as a kid?
All right. So you mean like the music that would play in my house, or do you mean like music that I would encounter just out in the world as a child? Like, what exactly are you asking? Because I feel like they're very different answers.
I'd say more so in your household, but I mean, if you want to include stuff that you were exposed to, maybe from friends or when you went to a shopping center, I don't know, was on the radio, you can if you want.
Okay, so at home, my dad is very much into classic rock, and it was always listening to bands like Zeppelin, like the Stones, like the Yardbirds, like so many different bands from that era of music.
Yeah.
And that's what I grew up on at home. But when I would go to my friends' houses, all I would hear is Wu-Tang. Like,
Yes.
Wu-Tang and Nas. That's basically what I grew up on. Wu-Tang, Nas, and the Rolling Stones.
Sounds awesome. Sounds very interesting. Yeah, no, I always like asking this question because it's amazing to kind of get a perspective like oh, this is what you'd normally be exposed to, and then when you're all grown up, it's like, oh, your parents probably look at you and it's like, whoa, he went in a totally different direction, not to what we intended. Like my parents, I mentioned this actually to Mike, the music snob of Become the Night, when he was on an episode. I mentioned to him that I was raised in a Roman Catholic household, and I was very much exposed to, if not church music, it was classical, opera, ballet, new age.
Probably fucking Enya.
Yeah,
would not
Enya.
Surprise me if you listen to some Enya.
I do still listen to Enya because it's for nostalgia. The things, but I understand if you're not a fan of it, but that's what I was raised on, and I'm actually grateful. Actually, I was raised on that. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be able to stomach a lot of Susumu Hirasawa's music because it's kind of in that new age style. But yeah, no. Let's see. But yeah, no. That's what I was mostly raised on. There was some from outside my family, some, old school pop hits from the 70s, 80s, 90s, even some rock stuff thrown in there. But, then when I discovered Linkin Park and all that, then it was just complete metal all the way from then, and then maybe dabbling in other genres here and there, like maybe some epic trance or something like that. But, yeah, that was mine.
Have you ever... Like, all right, since you mentioned Linkin Park, Did you
Yes.
ever listen to the rapper from Linkin Park? His solo hip hop album.
Uh, you're not referring to his Project Fort Minor, are you?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
I didn't listen to a full album, but I have listened to a lot of their songs, and I really do enjoy them.
Yeah, there are a couple songs on there. There's one that talks about the Korematsu case, which is
Mm,
Japanese internment, or the internment of Japanese citizens during World War II by the United States.
mm,
And that song is probably one of the more interesting ones that I would recommend for anyone that hasn't heard Fort Minor before.
hmm. I don't know if I've heard that one, but I'll definitely, if the album's available for streaming somewhere, then I'll give it a listen in full. Because obviously I know the really popular hits like Remember the Name and what's the I can't remember the title of it, but the one that goes Where'd you go, Misty? So it was on the radio all the fucking time when I was a kid. So
Yep.
on repeat. But yeah, no, I'm very familiar with Mike Shinoda's stuff, and because of checking out some of Mike Shinoda's stuff, I'm also very familiar with guys like Richie Nix, who sometimes happen to collaborate with industrial rock and metal guys like Cell Dweller or Zardonic. But yeah, no, it is very interesting who gets together with who and does things where and when the crossovers start to happen. That's what makes music so interesting. So yeah, um, and there's something else I have to ask that's on the music side. I think I think this is the final thing on the music side. Do you think that because this is a question that gets thrown around a lot, but I just want to hear your take on it. Do you think that music is becoming somewhat of a lost art in this day and age, considering the majority of commercialized and popular music is now very formulaic and lacking in risk taking?
I think that with the advent of the internet, um, music as an art form and not a product to be sold will always be a thing.
Mm,
Whether it is a thing that receives the exposure it deserves or not remains to be seen.
mm,
So, for example, um, we still have platforms like SoundCloud where independent artists are doing what they can to make the music they want to make without the restrictions or formulas that it takes for it like to be successful on pop charts. Um,
mm,
but the what's concerning is the fact that a lot of these artists, once they are given opportunities, are put in a position where they have to kind of like acclimate to what it means to be a pop artist,
mm,
and that I think ruins artists in the long term. But I think as long as we continue to have a steady stream of people that are trying to push the boundaries of what music is, um, I think we don't have to worry too much about things becoming overly vapid
mm.
or completely vapid. I think that there's still hope out there in the internet.
Hmm. No, that's a very interesting and certainly a much more a positive take on it because being surrounded by a lot of metalheads, like especially the young metalheads, so, when they just getting into it, they'll be like, "Oh, metal's the best, man. Everything else sucks." Oh,
Hmm.
kind of thing. So yeah, no, that's definitely one of the more positive responses. To that question that I've heard. Yeah, no, and I'm with you there with the whole exposure thing. Like it most of the time, it does ruin artists. Like, I mean, yes, sure, they'll get more fans and their sound becomes like more, streamlined. Like, I think a perfect recent example of that is the band Bring Me the Horizon. Like, I mean, I
Hmm.
wasn't a fan of their earlier stuff per se or anything like that. Never really been a fan of them, but I could understand the appeal of their early stuff because, like, their earlier stuff was a huge influence on the deathcore community, along with bands like Suicide Silence and Carnifex and all that when they were starting. And just yeah, now they sound like I don't know how you'd put it, like very radio friendly rock, not even metal anymore, and there are a lot of disappointed folks on both sides of the camp and stuff. So, and also Ollie Sykes, the vocalist, has let a lot of shit go to his head, and he's just not been acting like the most pleasant of people. So yeah, I'm with you there. That sometimes when they get the opportunity, it ruins them. But then you get other bands who have, or just solo artists in general, who've managed to maintain a consistent track record of putting out really good quality music, no matter how big their fame gets. So, like for example, recent example is I know he's put the project on hold, but the Devin Townsend project was, I would say, from the impression I got and from seeing how many people on all these music reaction channels were just starting to pick him up like almost overnight, and how many people like when started going to see him and everything like that. He still managed to keep that consistent quality right up until the very last record of the Devin Townsend project, and now he's moved on to uh, doing 4 other projects with different other members and stuff. So I'm interested to hear what he's going to put out this year. So yeah.
Sounds good. I mean, like, I haven't really been exposed to any of that, but if you have links to things that are worth listening to, as anyone in the chat, if you have music that you think, because while I do have an interest in metal and related genres, I still have a lot to learn. So if you have any recommendations in the comments, feel free to leave them addressed to me, and I will happily give them a listen.
Sure. If they send it, I'll if they send it in the comments, I'll send it your way in the DMs on Twitter.
Sounds good to me.
Now we come to the final bunch of questions, and I think these are very important, relevant concerning what's happened so far this year. So the first one I'd say is, what were your overall thoughts on this year's Crunchyroll Anime Awards?
It has the same problem that last year did, where the most popular show won everything, whether it deserved it or not. And I feel like, yeah, My Hero Academia is a fantastic show. I love the show. I own season 1 on Blu-ray. I have 6 volumes of the manga. There are several instances, or for several of the categories, it wouldn't have been my choice. And I feel like people didn't really evaluate the question. They just voted for the shows that they like, which is kind of why I wish there was a judge component to it. Because as far as I know, the judges only really selected the shows. They didn't really have a stake in how the outcomes played out. Like this, it was a People's Choice Award when, I think more could have been accomplished for the medium if that platform would have been used to like shed light on shows that maybe didn't get the attention they deserved. Like, for example, the fact that Made in Abyss won one award, as far as I'm concerned, maybe 2. Like, that's criminal. The fact that Land of the Lustrous barely won anything, that's also criminal. I don't know. There were opportunities to really like shed light on shows that were critically acclaimed that maybe the audience didn't decide to give a chance, and maybe that would have persuaded more people to watch said shows.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Like, I think personally, when they put the categories out, I think instead of limiting it to one character or one franchise or whatever it was, whatever the category was, they'd like put like 2 or 3 or possibly even dominate the entire thing, the entire category entirely. And with regards to other shows, like I was, I was glad that Recreators got a spot on the soundtrack part, because that soundtrack I believe was fucking awesome. But Recreators didn't show up in any of the show categories whatsoever. Some shows were mislabeled by genre. I will admit that it was definitely way better improvement than the Yuri on Ice Awards, which was the first one. But
Mm-hmm.
but it's it's still got ways to go. And like, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of these contests, but I mean, if they do somewhat help legitimize anime as a medium to be recognized, as opposed to like when the Oscars are like, oh, we're not going to recognize anime or something, then I say Crunchyroll must just host as many awards as they can. Just maybe just be a little less biased about it, or cringy in some ways, because of some of those moments on the show were a little cringy and laughable. But they're only just starting out. I have a feeling it will probably get better with time if they maybe listen to some of some of the input that gets put in. But it is what it is.
Yep.
That's just my take on it.
No, I think that's a fair thing to say. That this is only the second year that they've been working at it, and they want to keep it as a fan vote, or at least that's what it seems. I think they will get better at structuring things to maybe make more use out of what the award show could possibly be, because I think that's everyone's criticism, is that they feel like the show isn't doing what it could do, and that's what's upsetting about it.
Definitely. So yeah, that was the Crunchyroll Anime Awards. But now I want to point back to, you made some interesting tweets. I believe it was yesterday, where you asked things like, how many anime does one need to watch before being considered an anime fan? Can a person be an anime fan while not being associated with the community as we know it? And having newcomers being shepherded, as you put it. Like, is it maybe possible to give us a more in-depth understanding as to what you meant by this, and like what happened to prompted you to ask these questions?
Okay, let's go in order of the way you presented the tweets, because that wasn't the order in which they were posted. But that's perfectly fine. There isn't really an order, or those things aren't really necessarily connected. The how many anime do you have to watch to be considered an anime fan tweet was just something that I started wondering about, because as you saw in those responses, a lot of people just said one. And as far as I'm concerned, you can take an interest in a show but not necessarily be a fan of the medium. So there are a lot of people from the 90s that watched Cowboy Bebop, but if you were to ask them today, yeah, Cowboy Bebop was great, but do you like anime? No, not really.
Yes.
So I feel like it can be one, but it's more of what you value in that one than anything.
That's actually very interesting. Yeah.
So and I honestly don't think it's like, what the label isn't something that I should be able to give someone. Like, that's a label that they cast on themselves, but like, that's my assessment of it if I'm the one that's doing the determination. Now, as for the second part of the question was like, should the community grow? And yes. I don't necessarily feel like yeah, the community growing is necessary for it to continue thriving, but I don't think we're at a phase where it has to grow as fast as it's growing. I feel like the community is just getting to a point where it's going to kind of implode on itself within a few years. And I feel like that's I feel like it's happening because like it's overextending. Like, it's growing at a rate where it's starting to not feel like a community anymore. So for example, there's a, like, specifically from the perspective of content creator to audience, if you were to ask any of the people in the community with over 5 to 10,000 subs, they don't know most of the people that watch their content. You know, and that's not how it was a few years ago. A few years ago, yeah, you had a good sense for who was watching what you make. So
Mm.
is that really a community if you don't know the people that you're engaging with?
Mm.
I don't know. It's complicated. I'm still like searching for an answer myself. Now for the other component, I think I already shared my take on it. Of
Yeah.
should we accommodate for new people in the community? And my perspective is yes, but people. All right, if you want to, yes, but no one is forcing you to do so. The community, like I've said, is already grown a lot, and there
Mm.
are people in the community that might be more willing or be more enthusiastic to guide people. The base principle of don't be a dick should be the rule that people follow. So as long
Yes.
as you're not being a dick, if you don't want to recommend someone a show, if someone asks me, can you recommend me a show? If I'm not feeling particularly inclined at that moment, I may not do it. In fact, I'll have my students at my job ask me, "Hey, can you recommend me a show?" And apart from it not being appropriate for the setting, I just am never in the mood to do so because that's not what I want to do at the time.
Mm. Yeah. Hmm. No, that's rather interesting. Yeah, with regards to the one thing, yes, I'm with you there. I have met people, whether it was at school back in the day or even some family relatives of mine. Like, I actually met someone who grew up seeing a few anime in the early 2000s,
Mm-hmm.
and they said that oh yeah, I really liked Witch Hunter Robin, but that was because it didn't feel like an anime. It felt more like something you'd watch as an American TV show, like
Mm-hmm.
just with anime-esque looking characters and
Yeah.
stuff. But other than that, so he was like, no, but am I a fan of anime? Not really. He was like, no, I'm not into Dragon Ball Z and all that stuff. It's not. He'd actually say to me, it's too anime. It's too anime. You
Yeah.
know. But yeah, no. And with the Cowboy Bebop thing, Cowboy Bebop made such an impact that it's like, well, like almost everyone knows about it, even if they haven't actually watched anime before. They're like, oh yeah, I remember Cowboy Bebop and all that, but not much else out of that. So yeah, no, yeah, that
I
is
think it's
interesting.
just a matter of um, labels like that should be things that people assign themselves. But
Mm.
I think that if you're gonna be an anime fan, you have to like anime. If that
Yeah,
makes any sense.
yes,
And
yes.
like that's all I ask is that if a person is going to consider themselves an anime, well then like anime. I think that
Mm.
I don't think that crosses, into the border of gatekeeping. I think that's a fair request to make. It's just
Mm.
if you're gonna say that you like a thing, then like the thing. Now
Mm.
what liking that thing means is up to the person that's assigning the label.
Yeah, yeah.
But outside of that, like just like I don't know. Like
Just
like
do
that
do
person that you
you?
made reference of that said that they liked the show
Mm.
because it wasn't very anime and they don't like any other shows within the medium,
Mm.
then like are they an anime fan? Would they call themselves an anime fan? Probably not.
Mm. Yeah, they might they might if like you introduce them to shows that are similar in feel, but whether they go any further into it and as you say, branch out to check out shows that aren't part of that thing, or maybe like, oh, what's this one all about? Then yeah, maybe. But
It
if they don't want to associate with the community because they're like, oh, I only watch Bebop, Evangelion, Technolize, and all those kinds of shows, and then they're like, "Oh, I don't watch K-On! Or something like that." Then yeah, I guess it's up to them, I suppose. But
I mean, if someone
yeah,
doesn't want to be a part of the community, so if there are these people, which we all know these people, like there
yes,
are these people that are so up their own ass with their taste that they're super elitist and they don't want to interact with people that are new to the medium, then
mm,
no one's forcing them to interact with anyone. Like I said,
mm,
there's plenty of people in the community that are willing to be the shepherd for the people that are new.
mm,
Like there are plenty of people, and I'm not saying that new people need to go out and find their own stuff to watch. You can
Yeah.
ask people for recommendations. There's nothing against that. Where I take issue is when people are, I guess, like aggressive with people that are new to the medium, as
Yes.
opposed to
Yes.
like just being non-confrontational and saying, look, I just don't want to recommend. If you want to talk to someone else, by all means, the medium is great.
Yes.
Go have fun exploring it.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Like I think it becomes gatekeeping when you create a barrier to the medium. But I don't think people are obligated to facilitate if they don't want to. Like, human
Yeah.
interaction is optional as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. That is true. That is true. No, but those were some very interesting questions you put out there. So yeah, but I sympathize with you on those in a lot of ways. But yeah, no, there's so many kinds of anime fans, and even in my interactions with the metal community as well, so many different types of metalheads as well that'll say, "Oh, I'm this or I'm that," or "I won't recommend," or if they are one of those people who recommend, like as you say, with their tastes, they are. They're so up their own arse about it. Like the metal elitists will be like, "Oh, don't listen to that metalcore and deathcore shit. Listen to some real metal. Listen to some true cult black metal and fucking I don't know uh the old god only. Don't listen to anything modern, and that sort of thing. I can be like, okay, yeah, no, that's very off-putting, but it is what it is. So yeah, you just gotta
Mm-hmm.
you just gotta find how you're comfortable with navigating whatever medium it is. So
Yes, sir.
yeah, let's see. Just a final few questions. So what would you say is your favorite anime soundtrack or score?
Um, the one from Welcome to the NHK. It is excellent. Like the opening, the ED, the score for it, all of it is really really well put together. It's my favorite show because it kind of hits every note. Like, the only downside to the show is it was animated by Gonzo,
Mm,
and the animation in places isn't very good.
mm,
But I'm willing to overlook that because there's a lot of charm in the show, and the
mm,
music is one of the things that I always kind of like go back to, specifically because it has like this really melancholy and somber tone to it that is just, when you're like feeling kind of down, it's comforting in a weird way.
yeah. No, I get what you mean by that. Because of the kind of music I listen to. So yeah, no. No, that's also there are lots of shows that like for me, for a show to stay in my top three personally, and my top three hasn't changed at all in these past few years. Um, uh, those soundtracks for those shows are part of that complete package. You say it just encapsulates everything: music, animation, just everything, hands
Hmm.
down. So yeah, no, I'm with you on that account where it's got to be like a complete package to actually enjoy it. So yeah. Let's see. Oh yes. Are there any other things you enjoy outside of anime? So video games, movies, books, anything like that?
I'm getting back into gaming after many years of not playing
Hmm.
games, so I'm slowly like branching out from being a strictly anime only boy. Like, I'm a manga and anime guy, and
Hmm.
I want to do more than that. So that's why I'm like trying to take an interest in gaming, or reinforce an interest, or resurrect an interest that I had in gaming.
Hmm.
Um, in regards to manga, my favorite manga is Oyasumi Pun Pun, followed by Vinland Saga, 20th Century Boys, Onani
Hmm.
Master Kurosawa, which I mentioned earlier,
Yes.
and Molester Man. So those are my top five manga. I highly recommend all of them. They all are very not to be read in front of groups of people because there's questionable content, but they're all really good, and I recommend all of them wholeheartedly. So
Hmm.
yeah, basically just anime, manga, and video games. That's all of my interest
Uh,
encapsulated in one sentence.
what kinds of video games do you enjoy, if you don't mind me asking?
I am kind of on a nostalgia kick right now, so I've been replaying old JRPGs, or at least the ports that have made their way to Steam. So, for example, when I was a kid, I remember playing through Secret of Mana, and it recently was ported to Steam, and the port is okay. There's some things that I don't like about it, like it was like an HD remaster,
Yeah.
and like I don't mind the aesthetic of it, but there's just a couple of things that I don't like. So, for example, there are no mouth animations, so it's really unnerving watching a character talk, but their mouth doesn't move. Um, Also, like I like, just in general terms, I like JRPGs. Like that's just something I've always gravitated towards. I've always been more about narrative than gameplay, which I know like a lot of gamers hear that and they're instantly offended by it, but that's just how I've always been. So, like, for
Hmm.
example, my favorite game of all time is Dragon Quest VIII, which is a JRPG with a lot of dialogue, and it's all excellent. Probably my favorite video game soundtrack. Uh, Character designs by Akira Toriyama, like all the other Dragon Ball games, or not,
Hmm.
all the other Dragon Quest games.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just a really well put together game. So yeah, that's what I like video game wise.
Hmm. That's awesome. Yeah, I haven't played many JRPGs myself. I've always been more of a, like get RPGs like The Witcher, Skyrim, the older Elder Scrolls games.
Hmm.
I'm really keen on playing Kingdom Come Deliverance, that more simulation style game. I've always enjoyed a lot of shooters back in my day. Also, I like the hack and slash, so Devil May Cry, the old Devil May Cry, not the reboot. The old Devil May Cry was a lot of fun. Just yeah, and the Batman games. I love the Arkham games. I really like the general aesthetic. The score's a bit generic. It's like too much like the Dark Knight films, but whatever. It's got Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, which is awesome, and all that sort of thing. But and what else? Like I really enjoy cyberpunk style games, so like Deus Ex. Uh, the I think the old Ghost in the Shell games. I enjoy a lot of fighting games as well. So like Mortal Kombat, Tekken. Um,
Man, I
uh,
haven't played a Tekken game since like Tekken 3.
this is Tekken 3. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, I used to love Tekken 3. That was one of my favorite games growing up.
Yeah, I played Tekken 3 the one time when I was on holiday down in Durban, and they actually still had an arcade at the place we were staying at,
Hmm.
the hotel. They still had a full functioning game arcade, and they had a lot of old retro stuff like Time Crisis and all that shit there. So Tekken 3 was one of them. So I'm happy to say I was fortunate enough to play Tekken 3 because I never grew up with a console or anything like that. Actually got my first computer when I was in seventh grade.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's kind of how it was for me, but
Hmm.
like I grew up, like I'm 31 right now, so I didn't have me not having a computer until I was in 7th grade was normal. Like I
Hmm.
don't think like I had very few friends that actually had computers at home at that point in time.
Yeah.
So, but I would imagine you're a little younger than I am, which makes
Yeah.
that a little
23.
interesting to hear. Yeah, yeah, significantly younger, but still, I still think, yeah, I mean, you started late, but that's fine. You know, you have acclimated pretty well to the internet, so congratulations on that.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. Yeah, no, I guess that comes with, kind of being the loner creative kid in school, where you got to
Hmm.
kind of deal with whenever people are, giving you shit all the time. But hey, yeah, I managed. I don't ask me how, but I managed to do all my school projects without actual access to the internet until after I left school. So Don't
Whoa.
ask me. Don't ask me how, but I did. Thank God, books still exist, and that we haven't gone full digital yet. So
Yep.
so thank heavens for that, and thank heavens my parents are both teachers. Otherwise, I would have I wouldn't have gotten very far. But in terms of resources, at least. But yeah. And now I'm interested to know. Now, obviously, you're a teacher.
Yep.
And I'm assuming there are kids in your class, like as you mentioned before, who know that you're an anime enthusiast. So I have to ask, what's it like being that teacher where the students like kind of look at you and are like, "Oh, I get that reference. He's just really cool," or something like. What's it like being that teacher?
I mean, it's an experience. I was teaching different systems of government
Hmm.
a few days ago, and I had this one kid that just didn't get it, but I knew he was into anime, so I was like, "Is he like?" I was comparing or I was explaining totalitarian dictatorships, and I drew the parallel to, well, it's just like the Hokage in Naruto, and then instantly when I said that, he got it, and then I asked him follow-up questions to make sure that he understood, and he's like, "Yeah, I get it." And the rest of the class was just confused because he's the lone weeb in the class, but it's fine. Like they got it through different means, and I do what I can to accommodate for the weebs in my class, and they like the fact that I like anime. They
That's
like the
cool.
fact that I play games.
No, that's awesome because when I was in school, high school, I had three teachers. My art teacher, being an art teacher, she loved anime. So we'd always talk anime and stuff. So whenever she made a reference or something, I got it, and that sort of thing. Then with I had two teachers. One was a history teacher. He was very much into heavy metal, and his favorite band was Rammstein. So, so yeah, I remember. I'll never forget the one parents-teacher conference. He actually came driving in with the Du Hast blaring out of his car, which
Nice.
is yeah, which was pretty amusing because all the other staff teachers were like, "What the hell is that?" So, and then he even had if you want to call it a midlife crisis of sorts, which Shane, the guy came in wearing leather jackets and driving a Harley and having like a really hot girlfriend on the back, like he literally had that, but then he
Nice.
kind of reverted back to old professor kind of style, and then gosh, then we had she was the sweetest lady. My Afrikaans teacher, um, she was really into Disturbed, and because I used to listen to a lot of Disturbed at the time, she
Hmm.
was always making references to Disturbed to help me get the work. And I
Yep.
think the most hilarious thing she ever did was when it was a free lesson with her, like a substitute period or whatever, a sub period, whatever you want to call it.
Hmm.
And so everyone was just talking to, like asking questions, just having a general class chat. And then she brought up for the girls, like, like who's your favorite, like good-looking celebrity, who's your date, whatever. And then my gosh, she was so open with it. She was like, "Ooh, I really love that sinner from Disturbed," and it was just hilarious when she actually showed the picture to the other girls, like they're all into the One Direction and stuff. It was like, I mean, like, so, God, it was just
That's
so
hilarious.
funny. Yeah, it really was. But no shame. She was a wonderful teacher. But she had to leave the school, unfortunately. So
Yep.
yeah, but other than that, yeah, no, some pretty interesting experiences with some of my teachers. But yeah, now these are the last two questions. So the first one is, where do you see the anime YouTube community heading within the near future, and what advice would you give to anime YouTubers who are only just starting their channels?
Um, I see a lot of the old guard stepping away, and doing different things or finding different ways to reinvent themselves. I feel like everyone's views have kind of plateaued, and a lot of people are starting to not quite get as many views as their sub counts would lead you to believe they would deserve. So I see the period or the community going through a period of kind of like search for a different way of communicating similar messages. And in regards to how I think or advice I can give to newer creators, it's cool to emulate the people that inspire you, but don't make that the basis for who you are. Try to find ways to incorporate what you like from other channels, but find ways to personalize it and really make it your own. Because the last thing you want to do is be branded as just a ripoff of someone else. Like,
Yeah.
that's one of the things that hurt Baron J's channel growth, is that people instantly started comparing him to Demo. And he's not like Demo. You know, he's a very different person. And I don't know. I feel like that's a pitfall that a lot of people seem to hit. And hopefully, like me saying this helps several people avoid it.
Yeah, no, that's actually some really good advice. So, yeah, thank you very much for that, and I shall also take some of that into my own channel as well, seeing as I'm still a small guy. So yeah, but yeah, no, and that's about it for all the questions. So yeah, is there anything else maybe you want to add?
Nah, man, I think I'm good. I said a lot. I would like to come on in the future so we can continue this conversation. Maybe talk about some more in depth with anime. Like, this little interview was cool. I want to talk some shows with you at some point.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, as my longtime subscribers will know, the purpose of the interview podcast is it's always like, initiation, getting to know you first, what it is that you do, and then then you can come on and kind of mix with everyone and everything like that. That's how it's always been, and we've had a lot of people come back and stuff. So yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that you want to come back, and you are most welcome to anytime.
All right, sounds good to me.
Fantastic. Okay, guys, so for those of you listening out there, we have unfortunately come to the end of this podcast. I do hope you enjoyed listening to it. As we said before, if you got any links to any music you want to send Lou's way, you can leave it in the comments along with your other thoughts and input. And as I said at the beginning of the podcast, the link to his channel will be in the description box below and at the end of the video. Also, the links to my social media and other related accounts are down there. If you want to help the channel out, you can consider donating to my Patreon. There are a bunch of awesome reward tiers there. And yeah, guys, hopefully Michelle and Claudio will be back by the next episode. So yeah, so thank you so much again for joining me, Lou. It was an absolute pleasure having you on.
It was fun. I'm looking forward to the next time.
Awesome. Okay, so thank you very much, guys, for tuning in, and until the next episode, take care of yourselves, and as always, have a kick-ass day. Woo!
Later, guys.